Hello, everyone, and welcome to this latest edition of the Fireside with Founders and Leaders podcast. Today, I'm delighted to bring you Sunil Jindal, who is currently co-founder and CPO of Magic AI. For those of you who don't know Magic AI, they're quite simply bringing fitness to the home, harnessing physical products, so putting digital media into a mirror so that you can do a home workout using AI to help you along the way. A bit like your own personal trainer and fitness buddy. So we talk all about how they're innovating, the things that they're bringing to technology, mixing the digital and the physical world, some of the complexities in doing that, as well as talking about Sunil's journey into product, some of the things that they've been doing, looking at some of the awards that they've won as well along the way. So really insightful episode that I'm sure you'll all enjoy. So sit back and check it out. Hello, Sunil. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Nice to see you. So we're here to talk about all things sort of fitness and AI today. But before we get stuck into all of that, I always like to start with a bit more of an introduction as to who you are, your background. So you've had a background in product before co-founding Magic AI. So can you talk to us a bit more about sort of how you got into product, and then we can talk a bit more about Magic AI and some of the cool things that you're doing there.
Yeah, sure. So my product journey, I suppose, like most people, was quite unique. So I actually stumbled into product. I started off as an intern working at a company called Hubble, and the co-founders actually said to me that we think you'd be a good product manager for us. So they actually trained me up, and I became their first PM. So I was part of the founding team there and first product manager at Hubble. I spent a couple of years there and went away and decided to set up my own business. So I play a lot of table tennis. I'm trying to become top 100 in England at the moment. So that's what I do
Nice.
alongside building Magic. And I was running events for companies. I set up a league for companies as well. So I was working closely with companies like WeWork and Monzo. And I learned a lot from that experience that I suppose, led me eventually to what I'm doing now, which is building Magic AI.
Nice, and that's the ping pong society, right? So that's big part of what you do in the background, as you say, sort of working alongside. I think you're definitely giving me a run for my money in table tennis. I'm no good. I think actually the last time I played was on holiday in Italy, and I was beaten by my 10-year-old nephew to his delight. I will say, after many times of him trying, but yeah. So how did you come up with the concept with you and your co-founder for Magic AI? Because it seems quite obvious almost in terms of having a mirror that you can interact with to do fitness. People work out. You've got mirrors all around the gym. Ultimately, whenever you go there, people are always flexing their muscles and working out and doing things. But how did you think of, okay, how can we incorporate technology into this?
Yeah, good question. So it's quite a unique concept, I'd say. When people use our product, you can see their reaction. They're very surprised, and they don't expect to see this as they're walking by. So it is a very unique sort of idea. So my co-founder actually came up with the very initial concept. So he had his own personal fitness journey that essentially led him to explore cheaper alternatives to personal training. And we've known each other for a long time. I've worked in product and tech, like particularly in the sports and fitness space for quite a while. And before Magic, I was actually working on an accountability platform with quite a well-known fitness influencer. And there was an obvious trend, back then, of more people working from home, obviously because of COVID. And we saw how quickly AI was also advancing, as it is now, and the desires that users also had for like a more personalized experience. So you can see, we've got things like Fitbit, the Apple Watch. They're great examples of products that are creating a much more personalized experience for their users. And I think, as with like most creative endeavors, it's usually the culmination of various different ideas coming together, which forms great products, and that's how I suppose that's how it's been in our case. And like I was saying, from a product perspective, this is a very sort of innovative type of concept. So, we drew inspiration from, various different apps. But, as I think with something like this, because it is very unique, it's very hard to, to look at other apps out there and try and put something together using what we find, because without application it's something that sits on a mirror. It's not something that you use on your phone. So when it's something on a mirror, there's a lot of things to think about. The way the user interacts with the device is going to be different because it's a 5-foot product. Because the screen is on a mirror, there's a lot of reflection. So when it comes to things like design, there's a lot to consider there. So when you really dig into it, there is, it is quite a complex product, let's say. The AI computer vision side is also very new. So for me, I wasn't very well versed in this sort of space when we first started Magic. So I was relying very heavily on, smart friends around me, which fortunately I had because, I studied at a good university and had, great experiences at other companies as well. And I was just trying to
Yeah.
learn, as much as I can, as quickly as possible. And then we have the hardware side as well. So it's not just managing the software, but also the hardware. Again, there was a lot that I had to learn from the hardware side. It's very difficult because we started towards the end of the pandemic, which is when all the borders were closed. So with hardware, we produced this overseas. So it's very hard. It was very hard at the time for us to travel there. We were sending samples over and reviewing them, getting more samples and iterating, in that way. So it's been a very sort of challenging journey, I suppose.
An interesting journey so far. And as you mentioned, that's the complexity that comes into it certainly from a product perspective, is that element of physical product and digital product and integrating the two. Now, as you mentioned just there, you obviously you went to a good university, lots of smart people around you, and you studied physics at university, if I'm not mistaken. So how do you go from sort of physics? You mentioned your journey into product, sort of stumbling into that world, but how do you go from graduating with a physics degree to sort of getting into the tech industry, and what comparables can you draw from the things that you learned to sort of the things you're doing now that are helping you in your everyday sort of journey with Magic?
Yeah, great question. So I somehow ended up studying physics at Imperial College, which is supposed to be it is a great university. Before university, I was working on quite a few entrepreneurial projects, even as a kid at school. So one of the things I used to do was sell sweets, in the classroom for 5p. It never made much profit,
Yeah,
but
nice.
that was I suppose the starting point. I also did this thing where I once bought a job lot of tech accessories from eBay, and being as naive as I was, I thought I could easily sell this for a profit. So I took one of my friends one day and we walked down the local high street. We went to all of these different shops. We took no money with us. We thought, we could sell this very quickly. Any money we made, we could use to buy ourselves lunch. I think in the end, we sold a £1 screen protector to this random person, and so we split that 50p each, and we bought a bag of crisps. That was our
Yeah.
start. And then also,
But you're learning in that journey, right? And that's the great thing about being in that sort of environment and going in and testing, and an element of failure perhaps in that, but
yeah,
failing early on is no bad thing.
for sure, yeah, definitely a lot of failure, and that was a very sort of hungry walk back for sure. But a great
Yeah. Yeah.
very, very enjoyable. And then, like I was saying, at university, I made a really good friend. His name was Hakeem, and he used to live opposite me my first year. And he'd already been working on quite a few different tech projects before he joined university. And he encouraged me to actually join a couple of startup weekends. So there was one at Imperial itself. And I just found the experience very enjoyable. I went there, I pitched an idea, and managed to form a team and just spent the whole weekend trying to build this business. And again, it didn't go anywhere, but it was a great learning experience. I really enjoyed it, and I kind of, I suppose, I've started to become more and more interested in entrepreneurship and building companies. I wasn't one of those people who applied for grad jobs at uni, as a lot of people, especially at Imperial, were doing. I just carried on working on projects I enjoyed. I found a project through a Facebook group when I was in my third year, and I just joined them and started working on this thing where we were helping people to find flats in London. I had my own sort of personal journey. I think, as a lot of people do when they try and find a property in London, it's a very difficult process.
Tough.
And exactly, and I realize, especially for people who come from other countries, they have the language barrier. Often they come with the intention of staying in a hotel for a week with a friend for a week, so they have a lot of pressure and they don't understand the market. So I was trying to help these people find flats. But again, I realized, there's a lot that I don't know, a lot I need to learn. So that essentially led me to Hubble, which is where I actually met my co-founder. So he hired me
Ah,
as an intern.
perfect.
So he was employee number one there, and I was fortunate enough to join as an intern, where I spent 2-3 months just helping out with customer success. And very quickly, the co-founders both said to me, "We think you'd be a great product manager for us." And I obviously had no idea what a PM was at the time, but I trusted them, and they both trained me up, and it was a great experience. I think everyone who worked there was somebody that I looked up to and learned a lot from. I often say that Hubble actually probably shaped me more than Imperial, and Imperial is like widely regarded as one of the best universities in the world. So a great sort of experience. I think you also asked about how physics has helped me. So I think physics in itself, I'd say, is a very challenging degree. And then when you study that at places like Imperial, it's very 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 difficult, I'd say. And I definitely found it to be a very challenging experience, that's for sure. But it definitely helped me to develop as a person.
Mhm.
I developed a lot of really good analytical skills, which I think are so useful as a product manager. And then the other side of it is the whole emotional intelligence part. I think that's something that I think I've had ever since I was a kid. I've really worked hard on developing my emotional intelligence. I'd say I'm quite an introspective person, so I think bringing those two aspects together, the whole analytical side, logical thinking and stuff, and the whole emotional intelligence, I think is very, very crucial to building a great product. And I think that's what has really helped me so far.
Nice, very good. Well, I'd like to delve into a bit more about like the technology and how it all works with Magic AI, because we mentioned, say, it's a fitness mirror that uses AI to help people with personal training. But how does it work? How is it unique? What are the benefits it offers its users comparatively to some of the other things that are out there? Because I can't personally see that there's anything that is directly comparable. The only thing that I can think of, as you say, is that personalization, like Fitbit or Peloton or things like that. But they're not necessarily in the same realm as what you're doing. So how does it differ in terms of uniqueness and will work?
Yeah, for sure. So I always struggle to explain exactly what we do. I think I'll try and explain it, but for any viewers, I'd say the best thing is to visit our website. So it's just magic.bit, and you'll see a good video explanation if I can't answer it, so well in this call. But so you can think of the device as essentially a screen that doubles up as a mirror. So when you turn it off, the device is just like any normal wall mirror that you might have in your house. But when you turn it on, there's this screen that comes on, and you can think of it as perhaps a big version of your phone. But the screen itself, the kind of overlay is a mirror, and the software behind it is essentially like a mobile application. So when you start using the app, you have access to essentially hundreds of workouts, and these workouts are actually run by a lot of professional athletes. So we have people such as Sir Alistair Cook, who used to play cricket for England. You've got Katia Jones, who is a dancer from dancing. There's a few Olympians on there as well. So you're in good hands, essentially.
Yeah.
And you can choose, workouts based on various criteria. So you've got your fitness level, your fitness goal, how much time you want to spend working out. And then I suppose the real unique aspect of what we do is we use sort of AI computer vision technology to track a person's body movements. So when you do a squat, for example, we can count how many reps you do and also correct your form at the same time. Another thing we can do is that any data that we collect with the computer vision, we use this to actually recommend when you should increase or decrease the weight that you're currently using. So if you're using, I don't know, let's say 20 kg for a goblet squat, the data we collect through the computer vision camera, we will use to tell you when to increase or decrease that weight depending on how well we can see you're performing the exercise. There's a lot, we can do. So one of the things we're currently working on is what we call personalized audio. So, in the same way as when you go to the gym and you work with a personal trainer, the personal trainer would be constantly speaking to you. They'll be telling you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, how you can do better. And we're trying to mimic certain aspects of that with, our product. So any data that we collect, so we collect, how many reps a person does, how good their form was, what weight they're using, things like this. We can use this data to essentially generate audio in the voice of the instructor. So you can receive essentially a motivational speech from the instructor where they're saying, well done today, on this workout. You lifted 5 more kg than you did yesterday. You did 100 more reps than you did last week, but I think you could do this better. So
Yep.
it starts to feel much more of a human experience, I suppose, which is kind of the direction that we're trying to go with this. And then
Yeah.
very soon we're also going to be expanding into yoga and dance. So there's still so much. I mean, there's a lot that we have done, but there's still a lot more that we can do. So very, very exciting times.
Nice, very good. And you touched upon, like obviously some of the people you mentioned, Katja and Alistair, who are behind the scenes, sort of working with you guys. So, how much do you think that's helped having sort of people like that as celebrity endorsements to get traction with the product? It's often seen as a great way to market products these days, especially with like social media, people on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. People are endorsing it. It's a good way to get products out there. So how has that helped you in terms of what you guys have been doing?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a very, very big thing. That's definite. I'd say, for us, like it's definitely given us a lot of credibility. So I'd say for early stage startups, particularly when you're starting off, you don't really have much of a brand, much of a presence. There's not really that much of a reputation. So having working with these professional athletes, it really does a lot for your credibility as a business. For us, it's certainly opened a lot of doors. We've been on the Lorraine show, which is sort of part of Good Morning Britain. We've had a lot of press pieces. We were in the Women's Health magazine. We've won quite a few awards and stuff as well. And whilst we have a great product, and not all of that is obviously down to the celebrity endorsements, it's definitely been useful in helping us to to sort of gain a larger presence. I suppose one of the things you've obviously got to do is you've got to try and balance that with the costs of bringing in celebrities. Like I
Yeah.
would say that most of these celebrities aren't cheap, so you are going to be
Yeah.
spending a lot of money. So long as you can justify that, it's definitely worthwhile at least exploring. I would say one of the lessons that we've learned. So in our case, these instructors, these athletes, they came in to film content for us. So that was one of the things that they've done, as well as helping us on the marketing side and sharing the story on their social media. But if you're bringing in these people and you're spending a lot of money, you've got to make sure that that you nail the execution. And as with any startup, you're always learning. So I would say, always make sure that you start off with lower tier, or whatever you want to call them, like cheaper athletes, before bringing
Yeah.
on the cream of the cream, to cream of the crop to record if that's what they're doing. So yeah, definitely very useful, but just be careful about how you go about executing this.
Basically, don't blow all your marketing budget on one A-list celebrity, because that's not the best way to do it to get traction. As with everything, start small, work your way up to getting to those sort of A-listers.
Exactly. I think if you do just bring in one person and spend all your money on them, make sure you're absolutely nailing it. That's for sure.
Yeah, they need to be absolutely the right person, and there's different ways as well there of getting people on board into products. We've seen it, with other people. They'll take some sort of shareholding and share offering in the business, and that's a really smart way for some of those people to actually capitalize on it rather than just earning money. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's some pretty prolific people in the sports world who have done that, and they've done actually really, really well from it. Rather than taking a fee, they've actually earned a lot more by taking a shareholding in the product.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's plenty of examples of that for sure.
And obviously you mentioned your sort of your career as in the table tennis world, as it were, and that, I believe, has really helped you bring communities together. You talked about the Ping Pong Society, so in terms of doing all of those sorts of things as I suppose extracurricular, if you like, activities. How has that helped you as an individual to a grow, but also then in turn helped the business to bring people together? It's that power of community.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the first thing that comes to mind is that building something like Magic is obviously very very stressful. And currently, I have a goal of becoming top 100 in England. So being able to play table tennis, I play about 4 times a week at the moment. So having that sort of outlet is super super useful to help me de-stress. I think I'd really be struggling if it wasn't for that. So yeah, I also run the Ping Pong Society as you mentioned, and I think through that, like I have made a lot of friends, and those friends, come from various different companies that are very very well known. So these are a lot of very smart friends, and that has been so helpful in helping me to answer some of the biggest questions that we have at Magic. So at the moment, for example, we're trying to hire a QA engineer. So having those people to rely on that I can talk to has been super super useful. Um, I'd say I think everything is also connected as well. So any sort of skills that you develop in one area are going to be useful in another area. And I think for table tennis, so at the moment, I typically once a month I'll typically sort of travel around to various different cities for competitions that are taking place. And through that, not only have I made a lot of friends, sometimes for these competitions I have to travel by myself because any friends that I have, maybe they're a bit lazy or they're a bit busy. So I tend to sort of sometimes have to play by myself, which has sort of I suppose kind of encouraged me to have to speak to other people, which I would probably do anyway, but it has helped me develop as a person. I've gained a lot of confidence through table tennis, especially when I've beaten people who are ranked a lot higher than me. That has been
Nice.
very big sort of confidence builder. So and that all translates into Magic. So when you play and you beat people that you don't expect to beat, suddenly you have this growing belief in yourself, which then translates to things that you work on in the company. And when I was building, when I was sort of running events for these companies, one of the things I had to do was I had to bring people together for these events. And I think we used to have 10, sometimes even 20 people around the table who would be there sort of listening to you. And I'm also a coach, so I'd be giving them tips on how to do better. So that really helped me to develop and help me to better connect with people, which again has obviously been super useful for Magic because running a team, you need those sort of team building, you need those sort of skills where you can motivate people, you can sort of speak clearly, bring people together, um, encourage people, and I think all of that sort of has definitely helped me with what I'm doing now, 100%.
100%. I think it's actually really important lesson learned, if you like, because sometimes there's this view that if you're building a business, you must just focus purely every single bit of energy and time into that business, where actually that can be detrimental. And if you have something outside of the business that you're focusing on, it intrinsically will help the business as well, as you've just mentioned, for all of those reasons. So I think it's an important thing to mention to people out there, who are perhaps running their own businesses or thinking about starting their own businesses. You don't have to be solely focused on sort of just that business and it taking up all of your energy. We always hear about the other founders of the world who have there's a hustle culture, and yes, there is. You've got to hustle and you've got to be part of that business, but you don't have to focus every single ounce of energy towards it, because doing other things outside will help the business in most occasions, provided you're doing the right things ultimately that say you're with the right people.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. I am actually a massive proponent for that. So right now above me, I actually have a series of post-it notes, and one of them has a picture of the yin and yang. But one
Nice.
half is work and the other half is rest. So when I talk about rest, for me, rest is obviously not just sleeping, but also doing things that take your mind off of work. So table tennis is a big thing for me. I think it's important that your happiness comes from multiple sources, because when you build a business, there will obviously be days when things go great, days when things don't go well. So you've got to make sure that you have other things to keep you sane. So that is super important. At the end of the day, it's all about productivity and the output. Not necessarily how many hours you work. And I wouldn't say those two things necessarily correlate. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you work more hours in a week, you're going to get more done in that week. Because let's say you're working hard Monday to Thursday. By the time it comes to Friday, you could be burnt out, right? You might not have the energy to do any useful work. So it's the whole experience of building a business is that it's a marathon, not a sprint, which is what people often say. So just got to be careful about how you go about executing things there.
Very true. And in terms of the sort of the fitness world and technology, where do you see things sort of going? Perhaps maybe looking at where you guys are going with Magic. I know you've mentioned a couple of things that you're looking to do, or other things that you see outside of what you guys are doing, because it's a market that's evolving and constantly growing, and I think there's a lot that can be done with the industry and doing things like you're doing to track data, because that's what it's all really about, is looking at helping people make data-driven decisions to better themselves, personalization, all those things you talked about. So what exciting things can you see coming up potentially on the horizon?
Yeah, good question. So like I was saying earlier, there's still a lot from Magic perspective that we can do. And one of the things, as I said, that we're working on is we're trying to introduce a more sort of personalized experience. And for us, that comes in the form, or one of the ways we're introducing this is through audio. So we're trying to, I suppose, mimic the experience that you would have with a personal trainer in the gym on a mirror, but also making that even better. So one of the things I've said is that we would be able to provide an experience where the instructor would be able to say to you in their own voice how well you've done in the session, what you can do better. So providing some very sort of personalized feedback. And unlike a personal trainer in the gym, we are collecting a lot of useful data through our computer vision that will be used to inform will be used to inform the feedback that we give, so it can be much more hyper personalized. We'll be able to collect things that that a typical personal trainer in the gym won't be able to see. If we want to go like really far into the future, one of the ideas that we have considered is using the idea of augmented reality to make the whole workout experience a lot better. So I suppose similar in a way to what the Apple Vision Pro is doing, a slightly different route. But with our mirror, if you think about it, you can see your because of the hardware, because it's a mirror, you can see your reflection on the device, but that's also overlaid with a virtual image that comes from the computer screen. If you think about performing something like a squat or let's say a shoulder press, imagine a series of coins that help guide your movement as you're doing the exercise. Suddenly the whole experience becomes much more gamified. I always draw the comparison of running versus football. In both cases, you might burn the same number of calories, but with football, you tend to enjoy it much more, at least for the average person, because you're focused much more on the competition and scoring goals. But both can be equally beneficial. Perhaps football is even more beneficial because you're working in a team. So it's
Yep.
you're learning, you're sort of building some team building skills from that perhaps. But that's one of the directions that we are sort of I suppose considering. But like I said, there's a lot that can be done with what we're working on for sure.
Nice. Well, I look forward to seeing some more innovative things coming out from the work you guys are doing. It sounds like you're certainly on the right track with everything you've done so far. As you mentioned earlier, you've had some amazing feedback, some great people endorsing the product. So, in my humble opinion, it can only hopefully go one way, and that's upwards from here. And if people want to find out more, you mentioned the website earlier, but it's magic.fit, so people can go on there, find out a bit more about what you guys are doing. Look at how they can either get involved with you guys as a business, or look at purchasing the product if it's something they feel that would benefit them.
Definitely, yeah, definitely check us out if you're interested for sure.
Well, Sunil, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you, and thank you for sharing your insight. And I look forward to seeing where everything goes.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a great experience.